The story revolves around Eun-ha, a beautiful YouTuber, and Ji-hwan, an ex-gangster who is now the CEO of a company focused on reforming troubled individuals. Ji-hwan has retired from his gangster life to help turn bad men into good men. Their first encounter occurs at a club where they accidentally bump into each other. Without hesitation, Ji-hwan helps Eun-ha collect her belongings and confronts the club manager named Lee for spiking the wine with drugs. As they are caught, he violently attacks a waiter. Eun-ha arrives in a police uniform and, to manage the scene, pretends to arrest Ji-hwan. Realizing she is not genuinely a police officer, Ji-hwan asks for her ID, but before anything can be resolved, the Real police arrive, and Eun-ha quickly leaves. Despite her efforts, Eun-ha struggles to gain views on YouTube and meet her contractor's demands. After Ji-hwan spends a night at the police station, he discovers from his associates that a strange drug was used at the club. Looking at a photo, he remembers seeing Eun-ha with similar tablets. Their second encounter happens when Eun-ha, while doing a side job, sees Ji-hwan snatching money from a teenager. Angered, she slaps him and runs away. Later, while working, a drunk man bothers Eun-ha. Ji-hwan arrives, recognizes her as the person from the club, and chases her. She eventually gets caught, and Ji-hwan questions her about her involvement with the drugs. Eun-ha, confused, insists they are just candies and eats them to prove her point. Ji-hwan is startled, but later learns they are indeed just candies. Eun-ha talks to her best friend Miho about the incident. Meanwhile, Ji-hwan decides to launch a meal kit for kids and sends his men to a festival to promote it. However, because of their notorious past, no one wants to try their food. Mr. J, one of Ji-hwan's men, starts a fight with a customer. Eun-ha intervenes to stop the fight in her own way. When Ji-hwan hears about the brawl, he scolds his men. Returning home, Ji-hwan accidentally gets hit by Eun-ha while she is mopping the floor. She grabs him to prevent a fall, but upon seeing his face, they both get startled, and Ji-hwan falls down the stairs. Fortunately, his men arrive and help him to the hospital. When he discovers Eun-ha on YouTube, he starts watching her videos. Suddenly, he starts having illusions of her sitting beside him, which frightens him. He jumps up and starts swatting at the air, when Eun-ha suddenly appears in front of him. Luckily, he stops before he could accidentally hurt her and reaches out to touch her, just to be sure she's real. Eun-ha kindly gives him some soy milk to help him recover and suggests he rest. Just as she's about to leave, his associates arrive. Confused and worried, he tries to hide her. The men enter the room and find him on the bed. They inform him that the girl who ambushed him earlier is connected to top mafia gangs. Ji-hwan tries to convince them that Eun-ha isn't involved with any gangs and is just a normal person. After they leave, Ji-hwan sighs in relief, and Eun-ha quickly gets up and exits the room. Later, her friend becomes worried about her getting involved with ex-gangsters. Suddenly, Eun-ha learns that someone has uploaded a video of the fight on her channel to damage Ji-hwan's food company's reputation. When she visits the contractor's company, she finds out that the owner posted the video to undermine their competitors. While watching more of Eun-ha's videos, Ji-hwan stumbles across a video posted by the company owner. He's surprised and didn't expect her to do such a thing. Meanwhile, Eun-ha is feeling depressed about the situation and gets locked out of her YouTube channel by the company owner. Jae-soo is furious with Eun-ha, thinking she posted the video to make them look bad. However, Ji-hwan doesn't believe Eun-ha posted the video, so he heads to the agency. He initially plans to sue the company for posting the video without permission. But when the company chairman blames Eun-ha and promises to fire her, Ji-hwan asks them to leave her alone and just remove the video from her channel. Eun-ha arrives at the agency and steals the original video to prove their innocence. When Ji-hwan sees her, he gets upset. She wants to apologize for what happened, but he doesn't listen. After saying a few harsh words, he walks away. The video spreads across Korea, and now no vendor wants to buy their products because they were ex-gangsters. Eun-ha posts the original full video clip online. When Ji-hwan watches the original video posted by Eun-ha, he starts to feel bad for saying mean things to her. Later, when Ji-hwan meets Eun-ha again, she asks for forgiveness for unintentionally ruining his reputation, but he knows it wasn't really her fault. The next morning, on her way to work, she gets to know that some kids were hospitalized after drinking the soy milk she promoted. She rushes to the hospital, where one of the parents, angry about the product, throws a carton at her. Fortunately, Ji-hwan shields her from getting hurt. Knowing it wasn't her fault and that she doesn't deserve such treatment, Ji-hwan takes her outside the hospital. She gets upset with him for grabbing her so suddenly, feeling bad and blaming herself for what happened to the kids. He tries to convince her to blame the company that manufactured the product instead. Afterward, he drops her off outside her house, where her friend is waiting for her. When Ju Young gives her his card to contact him later, Ji Hwan feels a pang of jealousy. He tries to remind her of how he ruined his expensive coat to protect her, hoping to get invited inside, but it doesn't work. Eunha's friend is puzzled about why she suddenly befriended these ex-gangsters and is surprised when Ji Hwan buys a whole lot of medicines for her. Eunha is more worried about the kids, recalling her own difficult childhood when she first met her childhood crush Hyun-woo, who tried to comfort her. Having never had a joyful childhood herself, Eunha dedicated her life to bringing joy and happiness to little kids. This incident really hurts her. Later, when Ji Hwan discovers that all the videos on Eunha's channel are gone, he becomes depressed and doesn't understand why. The next morning when Ju Young arrives, Ji Hwan refuses to leave the house without his coat that Eunha has. So Ju Young goes to her friend Miho's hair salon to retrieve it and learns that Eunha is currently at her senior Yina's house for work. Eunha arrives at her senior Yina's house, a very successful kids content creator. Yina offered her a job cleaning her house to earn some money. Yina leaves the house to work, but when she unexpectedly comes back with her colleagues, Eunha realizes Yina just wanted to insult her by showing her co-workers Eunha cleaning her house. She goes out to throw the trash when Ji Hwan arrives and hides from her. Yina follows her, displeased that Eunha isn't acting pitiful for her enjoyment. Nonetheless, she offers Eunha $1,000 for her work, intending to demean her financial situation. Eunha doesn't want to take that much money and promises to return the change to Yina later. Suddenly, Yina notices Ji Hwan there, and Eunha, feeling embarrassed, quickly departs the scene. She goes to a roadside liquor shop, and Ji Hwan follows her. She's surprised to see him since he was supposed to be at Yina's house. Because he can't handle liquor well, Ji Hwan gets heavily drunk, which worries Eunha. She tries to call a taxi but then finds him missing. After searching, she finds him having fun at a children's park. He then drags her along to join in the fun. After enjoying the rides at the park, they start to have a conversation. Ji Hwan suddenly insists that she shouldn't quit her YouTube channel and should continue making more videos. He even admits that he misses seeing her videos. Eunha tries to leave quickly but trips and falls onto Ji Hwan. Luckily, Ju Young arrives just in time to pick him up. The next day, Eunha meets Hyun-woo, who is a prosecutor working on a drug smuggling case. Because of his name, Eunha thinks he might be her childhood friend Hyun-woo but doesn't dare to ask. Hyun-woo, suspecting that Ji Hwan is still involved in shady activities, questions Eunha about the incident at the club. Eunha explains that she misunderstood Ji Hwan that night, but Hyun-woo remains skeptical, believing they're still pretending to have changed and doing bad things behind the scene. Meanwhile, Ji Hwan is lost in thought, unsure how to react after his drunken behavior the previous night. Hyun-woo gives Eunha his card to stay in touch. As she's leaving, a biker almost ruins her clothes, but Hyun-woo shields her with his umbrella just in time. When she returns home, she learns her boss has kicked her out of the house. Meeting with him, she finds out he's decided to fire her since she's no longer beneficial to the company. Ji Hwan learns from Ju Young that Eunha has been kicked out of her apartment by her boss and that she has no family. Feeling depressed and with nowhere to go, Eunha thinks of returning to her childhood home in hopes of finding shelter. Coincidentally, she meets Ji Hwan there, who seems to be living in her childhood friend Hyun-woo's old house now. She gives him his coat back and lies about going on vacation. Knowing the truth, Ji Hwan pretends to check the stains on the coat and invites her inside the house. When Ji Hwan brings Eunha something to eat and finds her sleeping, he gently covers her with a blanket. The next morning, Eunha wakes up in an unfamiliar room and smells delicious food being cooked. She heads to the kitchen, startling everyone. Jae instantly recognizes her as the person who hurt Ji Hwan. When Ji Hwan arrives, everyone falls silent and takes their seats. Later, to stop the drug racket, Ji Hwan wants to find the main source. For that he goes to Mr. Taek's house with Eunha tagging along with him, where they find his little sister. However, Mr. Taek isn't there. Unfortunately, Prosecutor Hyun-woo arrives looking for Mr. Taek and finds Ji Hwan and Eunha instead. He criticizes Ji Hwan for being an ex-convict and for endangering Eunha by being with her. Upset, Ji Hwan leaves alone. Hyun-woo drops Eunha off at her old apartment, but she decides to go back to Ji Hwan's mansion to retrieve her luggage. She takes her bag and heads to a nearby dry sauna. where she meets Ji-hwan's gang member, Yang. Yang has been hiding because he recently met with famous kids content influencer Yina to make her their brand ambassador. However, to endorse their products, Yina made Yang sign contract papers in Ji-hwan's absence to fulfill her own agendas. As Yang gets a call from the courier boy and bumps into a member of an opposing gang, he tries to get away, but others arrive and start messing with him. Eun-ha can't stand by and tries to help, but when they don't listen, Ji-hwan shows up and terrifies the gang members, who immediately leave. Ji-hwan learns that Yang secretly used his seal stamp, but Yang claims he only did it for the company's sake. Ji-hwan then invites Eun-ha to live with them at his house and offers her a tutor's job to teach basic academics to the employees, though they aren't really happy about it. The next morning, Yina meets with Ji-hwan. Although he's unhappy about her tricks to get the contract papers signed, he welcomes her as their kid's food ambassador. Yina explains that according to the contract, Ji-hwan is required to be her personal caretaker during working hours. Later, they have a small party to celebrate restarting their business and welcoming Eun-ha as their newest member. Afterwards, Ji-hwan finds Eun-ha drinking alone in the lawn. He goes to check on her, but she gets too drunk, gets close to him, and suddenly kisses him, which shocks Ji-hwan. The next day, Eun-ha wakes up scared as she remembers the kiss. When she meets Ji-hwan, she lies about not remembering what happened after the party. Afterwards, she tries to find the time capsule she hid years ago in the lawn with Hyun-woo and calls him to confirm its location. However, instead of answering her questions, he asks her to go on a date with him next Saturday. Meanwhile, Yina is on her way to endorse Ji-hwan's product, and it seems she has feelings for him. During the endorsement ceremony, she tastes the sausages made by Ji-hwan's company. Ji-hwan notices that she's having allergic symptoms, so he quickly grabs her and takes her away from the scene. When Ji-hwan's employees return to the mansion, Jae starts to exaggerate about how Ji-hwan hugged Yina at the ceremony, making Eun-ha feel envious. She asks others to describe Ji-hwan in one word. When Ji-hwan shows up, since others can't think of a word other than boss, she describes him as gangster shoulders. Ji-hwan gets depressed, thinking she only sees him as a gangster. When he confronts her, she laughs and advises him to look up the meaning, which happens to be someone with extremely broad shoulders. Believing she likes broad shoulders, Ji-hwan starts working out. Jae is confused since Ji-hwan hasn't worked out in a long time and is suddenly doing all shoulder exercises. Jae realizes Ji-hwan might be doing this to win Eun-ha's heart and tries to stop him. Eun-ha arrives and notices Ji-hwan working out. Meanwhile, Ju-young is seeing Eun-ha's friend Miho because he likes her. After dinner, the two of them go for a walk when a woman unintentionally throws water at them, forcing them to seek refuge in a hotel, where they ultimately do it together because it appears that they have both fallen in love. Later, Ji-hwan discusses Yina with his employees. Since she's allergic to meat, Ji-hwan considers ending their deal and hiring someone else as their brand ambassador. Eun-ha heads out to meet Hyun-woo for their date. When Hyun-woo tries to help her tie her seatbelt, she gets flustered, thinking Ji-hwan is watching. While eating outside, Eun-ha tries to confirm if Hyun-woo is her childhood friend. Suddenly, Hyun-woo gets a call from a staff member, informing him that Mr. Taek's sister, Yun, has disappeared. They immediately go to check and find her missing. After searching, Eun-ha calls Ji-hwan to ask about Yun's whereabouts. Ji-hwan learns that Eun-ha is with prosecutor Hyun-woo and asks her to come back. After that, Hyun-woo calls Ji-hwan, and they meet outside. Hyun-woo doesn't understand why Ji-hwan is still in touch with Eun-ha when there's no apparent connection between them. Ji-hwan, tired of Hyun-woo's judgment just because he's an ex-convict, is frustrated. Back home, Ji-hwan meets Eun-ha, who questions him about Yun. He assures her that Yun is safe and asks about her relationship with Hyun-woo. Unable to answer, Eun-ha remains silent, and Ji-hwan walks away, upset by the thought that she might already have someone else in her life. The next morning, an alarm goes off, worrying Eun-ha as all the employees prepare for what seems like a fight. They set off in a van, and Eun-ha, discovering their serious demeanor, tags along. They arrive at their designated location, where a few people emerge with knives. However, they soon start taking out meat from the truck, and Eun-ha realizes it was just business. As she starts working, Eun-ha learns from the female staff that Ji-hwan is a kind person who helped them during the hardest times of their lives. While fetching the tags, she meets Ji-hwan's employee, Man-ho. Instead of guiding her to the correct room, Man-ho sends her inside the freezer room, where Ji-hwan is also present, and locks the door from outside. He then goes to report it to the other employees. When Ji-hwan appears, he gets shocked to see Eun-ha there, and tries to open the door but finds it locked. Jae and the others are furious at Man-ho for locking them in a -18°C freezer. As Man-ho realizes he lost the keys, they quickly head toward the room. Seeing Eun-ha shivering from the cold, Ji-hwan gives her his coat and hugs her from behind to keep her warm. Fortunately, the others break the lock, and Ji-hwan emerges from the freezer with Eun-ha, relieved and safe. When she wakes up, Ji-hwan gets a sigh of relief. Eun-ha isn't able to understand why he is always so kind towards her. As the other employees are peeking inside the room, a nurse interrupts them. Ji-hwan gets angry at them for intentionally bringing her to the factory and locking her up in a freezer. Jae says it was Man-ho's doing, who then starts to cry out loud and asks for forgiveness, calling Eun-ha's sister-in-law. While on their way to meet Eun-ha, Ju-young reunites with Mi-ho at the hospital. Embarrassed, Ju-young apologizes to Mi-ho for losing his control that night and calls what happened between them a mistake. Eun-ha's friend also arrives to check up on her. Ji-hwan goes to buy shoes for her, and Hyun-woo arrives there to meet with Eun-ha in the meantime. When Ji-hwan returns, Eun-ha's friend informs him that Eun-ha went out to buy something. Ji-hwan gets inside the room to wait for her. After checking up on her, Hyun-woo swiftly departs from the hospital, and Eun-ha returns to find Ji-hwan asleep. She goes near him and starts to recall her memories with him. He wakes up. Since he seems very tired, she insists on taking some rest in bed. When he wakes up the next morning, and quickly gets up and leaves from their hospital without informing her. Mi-ho also wakes up on the bench and gets a muscle cramp, so Ju-young arrives to help her. Then Ju-young drops Mi-ho at her house, where unexpectedly her father sees them and thinks they're dating. Meanwhile, Eun-ha makes her way to Ji-hwan's company headquarters to return his wallet. Ji-hwan, on the other hand, is in a meeting with Yina. He's trying to gently explain to her that she's not the best fit to endorse their meat product since she's allergic to it. But Yina is pretty stubborn and doesn't want to back out of the contract. As Eun-ha watches from a distance, Yina attempts to eat one of the meat sausages. Ji-hwan quickly stops her just in time. Not wanting to be seen by Yina, Eun-ha decides to hand the wallet over to Ji-hwan's employee, Lee Dong. When Lee returns Ji-hwan's wallet, Ji-hwan learns that Eun-ha saw him holding hands with Yina. Later, when Ji-hwan gets home, Eun-ha serves him food even though she's a bit upset. She starts to wonder how he could be single all his life when he's so smooth at holding a lady's hand. She can't help but show her jealousy after seeing him with Yina. While washing dishes, Eun-ha accidentally gets soap water in her eyes. Ji-hwan tries to help her, but just as things get close, Man-ho makes a weird noise that startles them both. Hyun-woo meets with Eun-ha and learns that she has been searching for a guy named Hyun-woo since her childhood. Curious, he starts looking into his background. Eun-ha returns home and discovers that someone has dug up their hidden spot. Ji-hwan appears with a box they had buried years ago. According to the background records, Ji-hwan's previous name was Yoon Hyun-woo, the person Eun-ha has been looking for since she was a child. However, Ji-hwan decides not to reveal to her that he is Hyun-woo, her childhood best friend. Eun-ha goes to her room and calls prosecutor Hyun-woo, asking to meet him tomorrow because she has something to show him. Overhearing their conversation, Ji-hwan realizes that Eun-ha has mistaken the prosecutor for her childhood friend. Later, when Ji-hwan learns Mr. Taek's location, he rushes to help him. Meanwhile, Ji-hwan's archenemy, Go-young, is interrogating Mr. Taek. Just as Go-young steps out for some fresh air, Ji-hwan pulls him out of the window and Ju-young unties Mr. Taek. They manage to rescue Mr. Taek, but suddenly, a car hits Ji-hwan. As they begin to torture Ji-hwan, they hear a police siren. Hyun-woo and other police officers arrive at the scene. Eun-ha and Ji-hwan's employees also show up after tracking his cell phone and find Hyun-woo with Ji-hwan. At the police headquarters, they learn that Ji-hwan will be released from custody on Sunday. Eun-ha receives a call from Hyun-woo, who apologizes for not being able to go on their dinner date. When Ju-young arrives with Mr. Taek, Ji-hwan gets released, but the police are still interrogating Mr. Taek. The other employees head home, but Eun-ha is worried about Ji-hwan and waits for his arrival. When Ji-hwan arrives, Eun-ha tries to check up on him, but he stops her, saying it's pointless to show her feelings since he doesn't feel the same way. He then moves forward, leaving her feeling heartbroken. The next morning, Ji-hwan visits the hospital to see Taek and brings his little sister along. Meanwhile, Eun-ha is on a date with prosecutor Hyun-woo, eager to show him their time capsule as a reminder of their shared past. However, this time, Hyun-woo couldn't hold back any longer. With a gentle smile, he told her, "I'm not the person you're looking for." He then kindly revealed the identity of the real Hyun-woo. When she returns home and meets with Ji-hwan, she tells him that she has found the person she has been looking for and plans to move out soon.